along with Marty Appel, author of Munson, The Life and Death of a Yankee Captain. I guess any Yankee fan or baseball fan growing up in New York knew where they were at that particular day when Thurman Munson died. I was picking up my dad from the Long Island Railroad station, and of course back then, Marty, as you know, there was no sports radio. There was sports shows on some of the stations, so I was listening to it on WCBS when they broke in with the news. Where were you when that happened?
I was at that point working in PR for Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn. I was in that office, and as ironic as it sounds, my phone rings, and it's George Steinbrenner. I had picked up the phone because the switchboard had closed, and it had routed to me, but he didn't know who he was talking to. He just said, put me through to the commissioner. And I'm Mr. Steinbrenner, this is Marty Appel. Marty, terrible thing has happened. I've got to speak to the commissioner right away. So, I got the call down to Bowie Kuhn, and, what unfolded from there was baseball's involvement and the commissioner himself attending the funeral.
It was a very strange weekend, to say the least. I had forgotten. I thought that the first game back was that Monday night game, but reading through the book again, it kind of reminded me they played a couple of games before that, the funeral.
Well, the big one really was the Friday night.
Friday night, yeah, I'd forgotten about that, yeah.
Yeah, and that was sort of, it's timely because we've recently had the Michael Jackson service at the Staples Center, and it brought to my mind a similar thing in Yankee Stadium the night after Thurman Munson died. Staples Center held 18,000. Here you had 51,000 turn out and treated, although there was a game, the pregame stuff is what everybody came for, and they sat in a misty rain, and there was, Cardinal Cook spoke, and there were ceremonies on the field, and the moment's silence, and an empty catcher position with all the other 8 guys on the field. And then just like 15 minutes, this moment of silence became cheers for Thurman every time his picture would be on the scoreboard. It was a remarkable event, and, it's amazing the book came out this week, the same week as the Michael Jackson service. It made me think back to that.
Yeah, I remember that service. Anybody who saw that, in my mind, though, it was kind of strange. I had kind of combined that with the game Monday night after the funeral. I had forgotten there was a separate couple of days there. But, of course, that Monday night, which was actually televised on Monday Night Baseball back then, that was a memorable night with Bobby Mercer coming back and getting the game-winning hit.
Yeah, and a never-before-told story about that from Tippy Martinez, who was the pitcher. We all know that Bobby Mercer delivered the winning hit in the 9th inning to win the game for the Yankees, kind of for Thurman. What we didn't know was Tippy's perspective on it, in that he loved Thurman and had been a teammate. And after he went 0-2 on Mercer, he had this flashback on the mound of facing Ron LaFleur of the Tigers some years earlier, whose 30-game hitting streak was on the line. And Munson came out to the mound and said, let's give him a chance to extend the streak. About a fastball down the middle for him. And in a second, Tippy remembered that and heard Thurman's voice and said, I owe Bobby this one. And he delivered a fastball down the middle for Bobby when a breaking pitch almost surely would have struck him out. And Bobby lined the game-winning hit down the left field line. And as Tippy walked off, he reveals, he looked to the heavens and said, for you, Thurman. Now, the ABC cameras actually carried Tippy walking off and looking heavenward, but they didn't know what they had until we have this story.
Yeah, great story, and I think they left right away to go to the local news. You mentioned that in the book. So they didn't stay with games and do post games like they do on ESPN now and all that. But wonderful stories of that game.
On the whole media, Sports Center started like a month after he died. Yeah. He was just a little before all of that.
Well, yeah, I know you go into the book. We won't get into details now, but, Munson, of course, was an avid pilot. He loved airplanes, and he kept buying new airplanes, it seemed, over the years. And as you go into, what happened as far as, that actual flight, and actually he saved the 2 other passengers, in a sense, on that flight. So even in his last minutes, he was very heroic, wasn't he?
Yeah, people do forget that because the FAA report cited pilot error, and he certainly did screw up on a lot of things. But he also had the resourcefulness to recover, not well enough to make it to the runway, but he brought that thing down in a field, and if they hadn't hit a tree stump, all 3 of them would have walked out. but the tree stump caused him paralysis, and the other two guys couldn't get him out of the plane, and then the plane burst into flames, and they had to flee and leave him behind. But he had the presence of mind to bring it down safely despite his errors, save those two lives, and the last thing he said was, "Are you guys okay?"
Yeah, great story, sad story, but even in his last few minutes, he was thinking of the other people on board. But it's a great read for anybody who, of course, was a Yankee fan. You don't have to be, because it's just a wonderful story of a guy who was one of the best at his position for the short time that he played, a 10-year career. Probably didn't have the length of time to qualify for the Hall of Fame, although who knows if he played another few years, but his knees were giving out on him, so it would have been hard to say. But Yankee fans, I think, still think of him as a Hall of Famer, don't they?
Oh, they get very passionate about it, yes. But the truth is, he would have been a Hall of Famer with an asterisk, because people would have put him in and presumed that he would have continued on to compile big lifetime statistics, but we don't know that for sure.
Marty, what kind of reaction have you been getting from the book? I know it's been successful so far and just coming out in the last few days. What kind of reaction are you getting from not only Yankee fans, but just baseball fans around the country?
The critical reaction has been wonderful. This is my 17th book, but this is apparently going to be the biggest of them. It's already the #2 baseball book on the Amazon bestseller list, and it only came out on July 7th. But the emails and voice messages I've been getting from people who've been reading it is enough to make you cry. They just say, I'm trying to read this slower because I'm savoring every word, and when an author hears something like that, it's just music to the ears.
Well, it's a great tribute to Thurman Munson, of course, down here in our area, Marty, as you know, even though we have the Rays, it is heavy Yankee country as well, right up the road in Tampa, so I know a lot of the folks down here are going to want to take a look at it. And Marty, I've enjoyed your work over the years, going back to watching the old Yankee games on Channel 11 with Phil, Bill, and Frank Messer. It's great to talk to you again. Hopefully we'll do it when the next book comes out.
I enjoyed this. Thank you so much.